So my friend asks me, he says, "What is Zen anyway?" I remember having the same conversation with my grandmother, my Nana, as I called her. She was so near and dear to me. I loved her. I loved her so much, and I still do love her so much. She used to send me all of the books and the articles and all that kind of stuff about Zen. I still have a really old Zen book. What is Zen? Actually, it's called. I do some social media posts on that book actually sometimes. Really cool stuff. So Zen, what is it? Zen is a word. It's derived from the Japanese pronunciation kana, and in one form of Chinese, I remember hearing it like Chan. I think it was Chan, which are derived from ancient Indian Sanskrit words. I don't know how to pronounce those words, but I know it came from an Indian Sanskrit word, which is loosely translated as absorption or meditative state. That's kind of sort of the premise behind Zen. The word Zen is traditionally spoken of as a particular Buddhist sect. Okay, so you'll often hear that, Zen Buddhism, right? But it spreads out much further than that. But it generally is spoken as a particular Buddhist sect belief or a way of life. That's how I've always seen Zen, is sort of a way of life. I mean, to me personally, Zen means a lot of things, but I want to give you some facts about Zen. In more recent times, as a matter of fact, the lowercase Zen, Z-E-N, is used when discussing the philosophy, and was officially added to the Merriam-Webster dictionary years ago, more or less as a description, as in, quote unquote, that is my Zen space. A lot of people use that terminology to use Zen sort of, again, as a descriptor, right? But what is Zen? What is it? There's not a simple definition, but let me start with suggesting that basically it's an ancient and currently growing philosophy, a belief system, disciplined training of mind, body, and spirit, and lifestyle. It is not a religion, contrary to what a lot of people say. It may be tied to some religions, but it is not a religion. And it is definitely not affiliated with any one specific entity, God, or representative being. In fact, one of the complexities around Zen is how often it's intertwined with many other aspects of life. Many, for example, consider it their religion, right? Some people I know is like, Zen is my religion. Look at nature, God, and spirituality as a Zen experience. A lot of people use that terminology. But it's important to note, it definitely is more of a way of life. It's not a religion. It does not have any God tied to it whatsoever. But it's fascinating because, again, I don't want to get too deep into this. This is a basic description of what Zen is. But if you follow along with any tradition, be it somewhere in India or in Japan or China or even America, all over the world, really, different religions somehow in so many ways tie in Zen together with it. But basically, much of the, if not most of the background of Zen reflects Eastern Indian religion and culture, with an expansive evolution, highly evolved through the religion of China. No doubt about that. So therefore, I'd say Zen is basically a mixture of the insight of Indian religion and the dynamic liveliness of Taoism and other Chinese philosophies. So mixing Taoism and Indian religion, and they came together in the pragmatic, practical environment of Confucian China. So think of Confucianism, Taoism, spelled with a T, T-A-O, the Tao, Taoism, and Indian religion. They all united and spread all over different regions. You'll find it in Vietnam. You'll find it throughout Japan. You find it all over the world, really. But those are key areas of Zen tradition and philosophy. Would definitely be China. The southern regions of actually all over India, all throughout Vietnam and Laos and certainly Japan. But that's only a tiny fraction of it. Add into the mix one of the more influential aspects, Buddhism. Which is more religious-like. It's not necessarily a religion, but that's for another topic, for another time. But again, add Zen into the mix of one of the more influential aspects of Buddhism. Zen's always attached importance to expressing Buddhism in secular terms, in art of every type, in manual labor, an appreciation for a natural universe, and so forth. Nirvana, or Nirvana, as it's spelled, like the rock band Nirvana, for example, it can't be approached or grasped or pursued. It's not something you grab. It must be realized in an instant, a single flash of insight, which is what they call in Japan Satori, just Satori. All a part of Zen. Again, you talk about nirvana or enlightenment, true enlightenment, or the enlightenment that can't be grabbed, that type of stuff. It's very poetic. It's very deep. That's all a part of Zen. But again, a very, very small part of the picture. But it's important to understand that. Okay, it can get pretty deep, complex, and involved. The Zen problem, the puzzle, or the challenge, or sometimes they're often called koans, K-O-A-N, koans. And it requires passing a series of tests based on the mondo or anecdotes of old masters. It's like reading traditional. In fact, I'm going to I have this little Zen companion book. I'll read you shortly a couple things from that. But that's based on Zen. And many times these things are never solved. They're meant to just be a contemplative thought, okay? In Japanese tradition, Bushido, the Tao of the warrior, is the application of Zen to the art of war. Yet another example. So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of writings about Zen, and still growing. I mean, it's phenomenal. I love studying it. I love following it. I find it to be a very important part of my life, the Zen lifestyle. Sayings like, in walking, just walk. There's a Zen thing, right? Just so when you're walking, just walk. In sitting, just sit, are commonplace in Zen tradition. As I once read, writing about Zen is difficult since many objective observers miss the point and eat the menu instead of the dinner. And yet that's another Zen koan, if you will. So let me grab my little Zen companion. I remember giving this to my Nana when I was a kid. And I had gotten it back when she passed away. But there's so many books on Zen. Next time you're at Amazon.com or you're in a bookstore or whatever, look up Zen. Ask them where the Zen books are. Let me read a few. Here's one. In walking, just walk. In sitting, just sit. Above all, don't wobble. Now, if you stop and think about some of these things, some of them are wacky sounding, right? But you're meant to meditate on them. You're meant to contemplate them. Okay? Here's another one. If you meet on the way a man who knows, don't speak a word. Don't keep silent. You see, it's like, what? Wait a minute. Don't speak a word. Don't keep silent. It makes you think. I'm not reading this from this book, but I remember another one that I'll never forget, which is that those who speak do not know, and those that know do not speak. And I contemplated that for a very long time. I still do. But basically, if you think about true confidence, right, it's kind of like the Mona Lisa smile. If you know the secrets or some of the keys to living a good, pure life and a good, happy life and balanced life, you don't have to say anything. True confidence comes from within. It's an inside balanced thing, right? So Zen koans. Here's another one. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. So think about that. And it's true. Because if you accept yourself with all of your faults, all of your issues or whatever, sometimes it can be very terrifying, right? Here's another one. If you gaze for long into the abyss also gazes into you. So my Nana and I used to say, like, oh, yeah, look at that, right? And that's like being in deep meditation. And those of you who've ever been in deep meditative states will know what I'm talking about. There's a certain... I get the same feeling when I'm in a church, too, when I'm praying in church and stuff. But you get this sort of a God or the universe or whatever you believe in. Kind of, you feel like you're looking at each other. It's a very strange but wonderful feeling. But yeah, there's just so many. Here's another one. The way, capital W, by the way, the way is not difficult. only there must be no wanting or not wanting. So that's interesting to contemplate, right? Because the way, meaning the way, which is the path of Zen, the path of God, the path of Buddhism, the path of whatever it is you believe in, the path to enlightenment is not difficult. But it's important to note that there should be no clinging, no wanting, or no not wanting. Don't push it away. You just allow it, as they say in Chinese, following the Tao, following the way things go. So anyway, I just wanted to give a basic overview. I want to do more talks on Zen because it's, it's very important to me. The whole yin yang concept, excuse me, the whole yin yang thing is really important to me. It's important in life. You got up, you got down, you got love, you got hate, you got right, you got left, you got dark, you got light. You always have opposites. And to me, that's what Zen represents, the whole yin yang thing, especially in Tai Chi practice. Huge, huge importance, the whole Zen philosophy. So study it for yourself. Study it for yourself. Look into it. Find it. I encourage you to find it interesting, at least for a little while, because